and Washington is big enough for both of us to thrive. Those were the words of US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen as she departed Beijing following a 4-day visit to China. But Yellen's words before that showed that nothing has changed, and Washington is well known for its forked tongue. China prefers actions over cheap words, especially in the midst of a Biden presidency which has more often than not said one thing and done the complete opposite. Today we'll take a closer look at the Secretary's visit. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Borham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. CNN, well known for its scaremongering and biased China reports, ran with a technically promising headline as US Treasury Secretary Yellen headed back to Washington last weekend. The world is big enough for US and China, Yellen says as she concludes Beijing trip. But if that sounds too good to be true, that's because it almost definitely is. Yellen made the remarks following an official 4-day visit to Beijing, where she met with Premier Li Qiang and Vice Premier He Lifeng for in-depth discussions about how the world's two largest economies can move forward. To be clear, what she said is true. The world is big enough for China and the US and everyone else to thrive. In fact, Beijing has constantly made it clear that that is its goal: mutual respect and win-win cooperation. The problem, though, is that that is definitely not what Washington wants. Today, the US is set on painting China as the biggest threat to the current unipolar world order, a world where Washington is the top dog and everyone else exists underneath, allowed to survive only at the good graces of Capitol Hill. The Washington Post laid out Washington's goals for the visit like this. US aims are modest, reviving government-to-government communications that withered amid the pandemic and an increasingly open strategic rivalry. Now, this is already misleading since the most significant cuts in direct communication between the two sides came following former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's arrogant and ill-advised trip to Taiwan last year, followed by the hilariously tragic balloon fiasco earlier this year. While Pelosi's trip served to tie up a personal vendetta she's held against China for decades, it caused significant damage to China-US relations. And the way the US acted over an errant civilian weather balloon was not only embarrassing, but also extremely childish. In my opinion, it would be best if Washington oligarchs, and yes, that includes the stenographers at the Washington Post, admitted this instead of trying to rewrite history. If you can't even admit what you did wrong, how can you change for the better? That's something we've all known since we were children. For some reason, though, Yellen is seen